Hello, my name's Paul Gosling and I manage the recommended list for the cereals and oilseeds at AHDB. Over the next 10 minutes or so, I want to give you an overview of the new winter oilseed rape recommendations for the 2026-2027 RL, highlighting some of the main characteristics of the new varieties. But before I do that, I just want to give you a brief overview of the trials for 2025. Again, cabbage stem flea beetle wasn't a significant problem for the trials. We did see some flea beetle in the north of England, but not sufficient enough to lose any trials. We have lost trials in the past to flea beetle, and we have tended to take trials out which are damaged by flea beetle, but now we tend to leave them in if we can, because we know that's what farmers are facing in the field. What we did suffer from this year was severe pigeon grazing, particularly in the north of England and Scotland, and we did lose several trials because of pigeon grazing. The picture on the right-hand side shows a trial in the north of England which has been badly affected by pigeons. When we lose the whole plant, or if the trial is only affected in part, we really have to take those trials out, unfortunately. We did lose several this year, as I say. We are still having issues with Clubroot in the north of England. We did lose another trial this year. We've lost several trials over recent years. Clubroot appearing in places where there'd been no evidence of it before. It does seem to be becoming a more widespread problem in the north of England, no doubt connected to the warmer, wetter autumns we're having, and of course it's been a long-standing problem in Scotland. But on the positive side, we did see high yields this year in trials, which mirrors what most people saw in commercial situations, particularly in the north of England and Scotland. We had some very high yields in trials there. So moving on to the new oilseed rape recommendations. For the hybrids, we've got a number of new hybrids with high yields and strong disease resistance. We have one new conventional variety for the UK, which pushes yield performance a little bit higher. We've got a new herbicide-tolerant variety, which gives a yield boost to that sector, and a new Clubroot-resistant variety for the north, which offers some new options, particularly on disease. So those of you that haven't seen one of these presentations before, what I'll do is go through each of the groups in turn, highlighting each of the varieties and their main characteristics. So starting with the general purpose hybrid varieties, so these are ones which haven't got any specific characteristics. From DSV we have Domputer, that's been given a UK recommendation. From MPZU we have Carrot, which has been given a UK recommendation. And from KWS we have KWS Domingos, which has been given a UK recommendation. So what you'll see over the next few slides, a series of tables that look like this, with the new varieties highlighted, and then a couple of varieties which are currently on the list. So these are what we call our comparative varieties. These are used by the crop committee when they select new varieties. They compare the new ones against the comparative varieties and say, are they better than the comparative varieties? If they are, they can be added to the list. So our two official comparators for the hybrid are Maverick, which is the highest yielding variety in the east-west, but doesn't have a north recommendation, and Armada, which also happens to be the highest yielding variety in the north with a UK recommendation. But looking at the new varieties, starting with Domputer, gross output in the east-west 107%, which is 2% higher than Maverick and 4% higher than Armada, and it will be the highest yielding variety on the east-west list. In the north, it's even stronger at 108%. 5% ahead of Armada, and again it will be the highest yielding variety on the new list in the north. In terms of disease resistance, it has a stem canker resistance of 8, which is very strong, well ahead of Armada, not as strong as Maverick. Maverick is the only variety with a 9 for stem canker resistant on the list. Domputer also has an 8 for light leaf spot, and that pair of 8s for stem canker and light leaf spot was a particular feature of note in this variety. No variety on the current list has a pair of 8s for light leaf spot and stem canker. It was something that the crop committee were very keen to push forward. Verticillium resistance is intermediate. Remember, verticillium is rated as susceptible, intermediate or moderately resistant. We don't have enough differentiation between varieties to justify a 1 to 9 scale. Domputer has a breeder's claim for turnip yellows virus resistance. What that means is we don't test it in recommended list trials. We accept the basis of the breeder's claim, and I say Domputer does make that claim. Stem stiffness is at 8, the same as all the varieties here, and earliest maturity is middling at a 5, the same as all the varieties here. Domputer also has a breeder's claim for pod shatter resistance, so again that's not tested in RL trials. Next variety is Carrot. East-west gross output of 107%, just fractionally below Domputer on the decimals, 2% ahead of Maverick and 4% ahead of Armada. North gross output 105, a little bit lower, but still 2% ahead of Armada, which is the highest variety on the old list. Like Domputer, it has a pair of 8s for stem canker and light leaf spot, so a very strong disease resistance package there, and it also is moderately resistant to verticillium based on limited data, hence the brackets, so a very strong disease resistance package there. Like all these varieties, it has turnip yellows virus resistance, has stem stiffness of 8, early to maturity of 5, but it doesn't have a claim for pod chatter resistance. Third of these varieties is KWS Domingos. East-west growth output again a little bit lower, 105%, but that matches Maverick, only 2% higher than Armada. North gross output is based on limited data, hence it's bracketed, but it is 2% higher than Armada, the currently highest yielding variety on the list. Stem canker resistance is a 7, so a little bit below the previous two varieties, but well ahead of Armada. And it has that 8 for light leaf spot, so it's still a very strong resistance package there. Verticillium resistance is rated as intermediate based on limited data. Turnip yellow virus resistance 8 and 5 for stem stiffness and early to maturity, and Domingos does have a claim for pod chatter resistance. This slide shows the official variety comments that appear on our website and will appear on the RL app. I won't spend time reading through these all. You can pause the presentation and read them at your leisure. So moving on then to our new conventional variety, we have one variety this year. This is Bacchus, available from Frontier, and that has been given a UK recommendation. We have 3 official comparators for conventional varieties. Tom, which has a UK recommendation, Annika, which only has an East-West recommendation, hence the grayed out for UK and North gross output, and Powerhouse, which only has a North recommendation. So looking at Bacchus, East-West gross output is 97%, which is the same as Tom, slightly ahead on the decimals, and well ahead of Annika. And in the North, it's 99%, 1% ahead of Tom and Powerhouse. And Bacchus will be the highest yielding conventional in both regions on the new list. Stem canker is 5, the same as all the other varieties here. Conventional varieties do tend to be a little bit weaker on stem canker. Light leaf spot is a 6, the same as Tom, 1 lower than Annika and Powerhouse. In terms of verticillium resistance, it's intermediate based on limited data, which matches Tom. It's better than Powerhouse, but not as strong as Annika. Stem stiffness of all these varieties is very good. Bacchus is a 9, the same as Tom and Annika. Earliness to maturity is a 5, similar to the other varieties, although it's slightly earlier than Annika. And it doesn't have a claim for turnip yellows virus resistance. And most conventional varieties don't. Annika is the only one currently which has that claim. And none of the varieties have a claim for pod chatter resistance. Again, I won't pause on the variety comment for Bacchus. You can pause and read it at your leisure. Moving on then to our new specialist Clearfield variety. On the RL, we call these varieties tolerant to specific herbicides. So we have LG Calvin, that comes from Lima grain, and has been given a UK recommendation. The official comparator for Clearfield variety is Matrix CL. So comparing Calvin to Matrix, East-West gross output of 94%, 2% ahead of Matrix, and North gross output of 93, 1 ahead of Matrix. It will be the highest yielding Clearfield variety in both regions on the new list. Stem canker resistance is 5, which is just below Matrix. Light leaf spot is a 6, which is ahead of Matrix, and it will have the highest light leaf spot resistance of any Clearfield variety. Verticillium resistance is susceptible based on limited data, the same as Matrix. If you do all the Clearfield varieties do tend to be weak on resistance to verticillium. Both varieties have breeders' claim for turnip yellows virus resistance. Stem stiffness of Calvin is good at an 8, slightly better than Matrix. Earliness of maturity is a 6, so both these varieties are a little bit earlier than the ones we've seen before, and pod chatter resistance is claimed by both these varieties. Again, I won't dwell on the variety comment. You can pause and read that at your leisure. Moving on then to the new Clubroot resistant variety for the north. It's Creos from RAGT, as it has been recommended just for the north region. Clubroot, as I said earlier, is becoming more of an issue with our trials. It has been an issue in Scotland for a long time, but does seem to be becoming more widespread as autumns get warmer and wetter. We will continue continue to support clubroot resistant varieties on the recommended list. Although they are a small part of the market, they are very important for people trying to grow in areas with clubroot. So our official comparator for clubroot resistant varieties is Crusoe. Creos has only been given a north recommendation, so its north gross output is 96%, which is actually 2% lower than Crusoe. Stem canker resistance is 5, which is 1 below Crusoe. Stem canker less of an issue in the north. White leaf spot resistance in Creos is a 7, 1 better than Crusoe, and indeed they will be the highest light leaf spot rating for clubroot resistant variety on the new list. Verticillium resistance is intermediate, so that's not as strong as Crusoe, although again verticillium perhaps not such an important disease in the north, and it does lack turnip yellowish virus resistance, which Crusoe claims. Stem stiffness of early maturity is the same for both these varieties, and neither have pod shatter resistance. So maybe not the strongest variety across the board for Creos, but that light leaf spot resistance rating of 7 was considered to be important for the north, and so this variety was recommended just for the north. Again, I'll skip over the variety comments fairly quickly. And then move on to a variety which hasn't been recommended, but it has been added to the list as a described variety. This is the Here variety, Ericsson, from MPZU. Varieties that are described are there for information, for people wanting to grow in this quite specialist market. I say it's not a recommendation, it's just there for information for people interested in growing these sorts of varieties. So we have one Here variety currently on the list, Resort, so comparing Resort to Ericsson. And it's been a while since we've had a new Here variety, and that's reflected in the big improvement between Resort and Ericsson. So in the east-west, gross output of Ericsson at 96% is 11% better than Resort, and its north gross output is 8% better than Resort at 90%. Stem canker resistance is a big step forward over Resort with an 8, which is a strong rating there. Light leaf spot is a little bit weak at a 5, but that matches Resort. Verticillium resistance of Ericsson is moderate, based on limited data, which is better than Resort, and it does make a claim for turnip yellowish virus resistance, which Resort does not. Both varieties have a stem stiffness and early maturity of 5, and they both claim pod shatter resistance. Again, I won't dwell on this variety comment for Ericsson, you can read that at your leisure. So into oilseed rape summary for this year. A small number of new varieties spread across different sectors. Yield and disease resistance boosts for the hybrids. Conventional Clearfield varieties edge forward in yield in other areas. Have that new clubroot resistant variety for the north. It offers a new option. It does have some limitations, but that 7 for light leaf spot was considered to be important for the north. And a new Here variety, described, not recommended, with a big yield increase and better disease resistance compared to what's there already. Thank you for listening. There are other presentations like this for the other major crops. Please view those at our leisure, your leisure, on our website. Thank you.